Hello, everyone,
Hello.
and welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe. It's the podcast that exists. Why does it exist, Jordan?
To prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And here we are. We've been going through the Batman conglomerate this year, and we're finally in the most recent adaptation. But he's actually not in this movie that we're talking about. But
It was all leading up to this, though.
it's all been leading up to the DCEU. And today we are kicking off our first episode of this series, Man of Steel, with the podcast hosts of Absolutely Gobsmacked, Brayden and Logan. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
So, first off, I'm just curious. I just want to put the feelers out in the room. What is, a little paragraph or two, what do you two feel about this movie? Do you like it, dislike it? What do you think?
I'll go first because Logan always gets to go first. I like it. I don't love it. And there are aspects of it that I do love, but overall as a movie, I like it, right? It's not the greatest superhero movie of all time to me. It's probably not even up there in the top 5, top 10. I don't know. I haven't made a list, but I do enjoy the movie. I think it's entertaining and I like it.
Okay, cool.
And then as far as with me, I'm kind of on a similar boat as Brayden. I guess that's why we kind of do the podcast together, because we tend to have very similar thoughts on movies. But it's one of those movies where I don't think it's a great Superman movie, but I think it's actually a really good superhero movie.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Oh, I like that take a lot, actually. That resonates with me.
Yeah, because it does things where I'm like, oh, Superman is Superman. Come on, but
Yeah.
but it's believable. Like the story is believable. The actor does a very good job as Superman. It's just, I don't know. There's some bits where I'm like, the old Clark Kent, from the what's it called? I'm not on the ball right now. The first Superman movie, what was it?
Richard
Superman?
Donner.
Yeah. Like where, saving Cat in the Tree is kind of Superman.
Yeah.
That's kind of in my head because I didn't read a lot of the comics, but I'll try to keep this shorter. Sorry.
You're good.
Because I go on rants. No, just it's less of like a Superman that I know. Coming off those movies. Yeah, but no, it's a good movie.
Okay, cool. And I should clarify for our audience, Richard Donner was the director of those old Superman movies. The actor was Christopher Reeves, just so that no one is yelling at their podcast right now going, how do you not know?
I would do that. Yeah, I would do that.
But so for me, we watched this movie a couple nights ago. We usually watch it the night before we record, but I'm glad we've watched it a few nights ago because I've been trying to think what I think about this movie because I like it. I don't love it. I think it's aging pretty poorly compared to other superhero movies. But it has a lot of cool stuff, but then it has stuff that I genuinely could go to the other room for a half hour and then come back, I think. Because there's things
And
that just...
not miss anything or...
Well, things that just totally lose my interest in this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
But what about you, Jordan? What's your...
I think this movie is very okay. Just very okay. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it and being so excited. Christopher Nolan was attached in some way. They slapped his name on it. And it really upped my expectations. I don't know anything about Superman other than kryptonite's bad for him. But I think when we watched this was the first time I'd seen it since seeing it in theaters years ago. And it was just very okay.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
So now let's roundtable it again. Let's talk about the first time we saw the movie. So let's start with you again, Brayden.
So, opening night movie came out. I saw it in the theaters with a group of friends. And it's funny because I remember it distinctly because it was one of the last times I went to a premiere and they didn't have reserved seating, at least in my area. So finding seats was a mad dash. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure you guys do remember.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays it's much more organized, and I do appreciate that. But it was first come, first serve, and it was we needed like a whole row of people.
Yeah.
And
have to put down the coats and like hope that no one goes to the bathroom, so you don't have
someone stole our seats, some of our seats, and so it was a stressful night to say the least. And we ended up having to split up the group of friends. So it's just, I remember that much about it. I do remember enjoying the action on the big screen. It was it was like a breath of fresh air in regards to action compared to like Superman Returns. So that much I do appreciate, especially if you're going to have like an action movie. I mean, like a superhero movie to me is an action movie usually. Right. So it's got to have good action. I thought it did deliver. Now, as far as story-wise, that's another thing. But to see it on the big screen for the first time, I enjoyed that aspect of it, and I remember distinctly.
So, what about you, Logan?
The first time I watched this movie, honestly, funny story. One of our family friends told my parents that the movie sucked, so we were not gonna. And my mom is actually a big Superman fan. As far as like any other superhero, she doesn't care about. Superman movie though, she wants to see.
Wow, that's cool.
So so she was really kind of looking forward to it. She was bummed out, so she didn't want to watch it. Whenever it came to DVD, I think is when we first saw it. My dad was like, you know what, let's rent it. And because my dad was like, I don't care. I'm going to, it's worth it to pay, a couple bucks and get an evening's worth of enjoyment.
Right.
So we did. And my mom actually really enjoyed it. Because again, she's a Superman. Yeah. She's a Superman fan.
Good.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So that's, I don't remember my first thoughts on it, to be honest. It was kind of just like, it was really cool because it was a new Superman movie, but beyond that, not really.
Yeah, I remember we saw it together.
We did?
Yeah, we went with like a group of friends.
Really?
This was far before we were even dating. But
I do not remember seeing it with you, but okay.
I remember it because I remember talking about the movie afterward and stuff.
Oh. Cool.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but saw it in theaters, and I remember at the time, and I've since, any listener will know you can go back and listen to all our Marvel coverage. I've since changed my mind, but at this point in time, I was very like, oh, Marvel is lame.
Oh yeah,
now,
me too.
I have to admit, I'm pretty much just a fanboy at this point. Like anytime they come out with a movie
of Marvel,
I'll figure out a way to like it.
Right?
Yeah, of Marvel. And so, but at this time, I was like, this series is going to do it right. That's how I felt when I left the theaters. Then I watched it a second time, and I was kind of like, oh, this movie's really long. I think that was kind of my takeaway. And then a couple nights ago, and with all of the Justice League discourse and stuff like that, I've pretty much just soured on all of the Zack Snyder related parts of this universe. But we are going and we're hitting it all fresh anew for this series. So I did try to wipe my brain clean and experience it for a first time.
And you're better at that than I am.
That's true.
That being said, I've not seen most of these DCEU movies on purpose.
Yeah, you jumped out after Suicide Squad. You said, I'm done.
Yep. And here we are. I'm about to watch them all.
And after they did Suicide Squad, they all started getting better after that.
Uh-huh. That's what I've been hearing.
But let's get into how this movie was made and who is behind it. So, of course, this is directed by Zack Snyder, who I don't even think I need to explain it. He's probably one of the most popular directors, whether good or bad, currently living. Mm-hmm. The screenplay is by David Goyer, who we talked about in our Dark Knight trilogy. He wrote those movies. And the story is by David Goyer and Christopher Nolan. So Nolan does have a story credit.
I think that he didn't actually do very much. Because he's better at writing than this.
Yeah, my thought on the movie is, because I was trying to figure out which parts were Nolan and which parts were Goyer, and I feel like human farm stuff, I imagine, was Nolan.
The human, like the babies.
Like when he's a kid and he's
oh, the kid being a kid on a farm.
Yeah,
okay.
I did word that kind of strangely, but I felt like that was maybe more the Nolan touch.
Okay.
But this is right after like the bombastic Dark Knight Rises, which we like that movie a lot. But it would make sense if he was maybe a little more broad strokey as the movie is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But then we have music by Hans Zimmer. We're just continuing the Hans train. Yeah. I like the score to this movie a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Oh yeah.
Kind of revamping it, doing a different thing than the Superman theme, which is also, one of John Williams' best.
What's the Superman theme?
Oh man, help me out. I'm forgetting.
Yeah. It's like that. Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can't miss it.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But I like this one. It feels triumphant, but it also like captures the kind of emotional mood that they're at least attempting to set in this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing about Hans Zimmer, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah, please.
I don't hate Hans Zimmer. In fact, I think he has some really great scores. Okay, so let me preface that. Okay.
Yes, here we go.
His Lion King score is one of my favorites as far as animated movies go, and that's his only Oscar. But I do think he's like, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but besides like John Williams, he's like one of the more popular composers because he does a lot of blockbusters,
Definitely.
A lot of superhero movies and things like that. I think he does so many scores and a lot of them are good, but I think a lot of his scores for me personally are forgettable, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
I think at this point it's been more quantity than quality for him in his career. And I do like the score of this movie. But I don't know if you guys remember him and James Newton Howard did the score for the Batman Begins. And in my opinion, James Newton Howard carried that score. If you look
really?
At and so I think that I think he's very talented.
Yeah.
But I think some of his scores are a little at times repetitive and kind of the same thing. So that's just my opinion. I do like him. He's just not one of my favorite composers.
There was a movie that Hans Zimmer scored that I think you really were like, this is like one of the most forgettable scores. This is like recent. I think we saw this movie.
I mean, I actually agree with you for the most part. I think on a base level, he's such a good composer that his bad scores are a lot of people's best scores. But
I can see that. Mm-hmm.
I think his great scores are so great that when he does anything less than that, it's a little like, come on, Hans.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I think maybe a quantity over quality thing could be.
Yeah. And I think
right.
I think like in the case of Nolan, I feel like Nolan kind of pushes him, I think. And they have a really nice collaborative work association, collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, I think some directors who maybe aren't as established or not as confident, maybe just are like, well, it's Hans, he'll do it. It'll sound great. And maybe they're not as, I would imagine Nolan is fairly particular.
Yeah, I would imagine so too.
They have to be on kind of the same wavelength. They have to have the same style, know what they want from each other. That's why guys like Tim Burton always work with Danny Elfman because they know what they want. They're best friends. They can
it's like why use anyone else pretty much. Yeah.
So it's like it's true. Some of the directors he works with, he does a better job with than others, like Christopher Nolan. So I can see that. I think so that makes sense. Yeah.
It's a good take.
But the cinematographer for this movie is Amir Mokri, who did Bad Boys 2, Age of Extinction, National Treasure 2, amongst other things. Those are things that I think our audience will know about. So I think
it looks good.
Yeah, I think the movie looks pretty good. Most of the CG is aged.
I actually
pretty
think
good.
Okay. I thought you were about to say aged and period after that. I do think that a lot of it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stuff that doesn't is not stuff that bothers me, really. I really think the Krypton technology, the kind of beady black stuff that turns into other things, is really cool.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. I like the world building and the art of that planet. I thought they did a good job.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that's always been kind of Zack Snyder's strengths.
Yeah,
are his kind of vision, how he sees it, and then he puts it onto the screen. Obviously, he has a crew that works with him and does those things, but it's all gonna go back to Zack Snyder. That's why a lot of directors, they have a certain style and vision. So I think that a lot of his things look really nice. A lot of his movies look really nice. They look really good.
They always look so stylized,
right?
For him, yeah.
Which I gotta say is cool when there are superhero movies that try to take huge, colorful, amazing characters and mute their colors and put a concrete filter on the movie, or so it seems, because these are huge, bombastic characters.
Yeah,
and he is really good at capturing that. Especially like BVS is a gorgeous movie.
Really?
Like cinematography, the colors, it looks amazing.
Oh.
But the story is where I have my issues, not the way it looks.
Right.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Well, and another thing about this movie too is the locations and the world building, like Krypton, and just even the locations where they fight or where he's at. It's not like a lot of other superhero movies, like something that a lot of people would think, oh, you can't really diss Avengers. Avengers is kind of like a really boring movie as far as locations. They're on a flight deck. They show these really cool shots, and then it's all boring. They're all inside, or they're all in these hallways.
Right.
Whereas this movie, they're in the middle of a small town, and you see things way in the background, and it feels real and big and immersive. And I think that's something else that Zack Snyder can do, is be immersive. I think he's kind of I'll just leave it there. Otherwise, I'm going to go on a rant.
No, I definitely agree, especially when you have to kind of compare DC movies to Marvel movies, because it just feels like they're rivals. And there are definitely a fair amount of Marvel movies that are just like, it is so uninteresting to look at that it kind of like pulls you out of the story a little bit, or it can.
Yeah. And we've talked about how we feel like recently they're starting to do a lot. They're making their movies more colorful. They're choosing more interesting aesthetics. But that phase 2 period is a little like, okay, this is we need someone else to color grade these movies or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie comes out June 14th, 2013. Keep in mind that's a little over a year after Marvel's Avengers comes out.
Okay.
I think that's important to keep in our brain as we talk about this. The budget of the movie is $225 million. It makes domestically $291, and then worldwide it makes $668 million. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
More money than I'll ever see. So, in, I believe, 76, right, is the first Superman movie.
Yeah, I'm thinking mid-70s. I can look it up, but I think
78.
Yes, okay.
78. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to remember earlier too, so yeah.
So, that movie comes out, big hit. They make 4 of them. The fourth one, Quest for Peace, comes out in 1987. Now, I've not made it that far in the series when I've watched it, but I'm sure one of these days we'll probably cover
the old
Superman movies.
Okay, wait. Nicolas Cage was Superman one time.
No, but we're going to talk about it.
Why do I think that? Okay, but there was another Superman movie. What was the last one made before this movie?
Well, so I'm getting to all that.
Fine, okay.
So they make Quest for Peace in 1987, and it does horribly. Critics hate it, fans hate it. The series dies. Then they make Superman Returns in 2006, which is a Bryan Singer movie.
I think I've seen that one.
Okay. I have not seen that movie. But then I believe after that... Oh, no. So actually before Superman Returns, Tim Burton was going to direct Superman Lives, and it was going to star Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Wait, Tim Burton directing Nicolas Cage?
Yes.
Why didn't we get it? That's awesome.
I think that would genuinely have been like one of the worst casting choices
Yeah,
in the
but
world.
I don't know. That is too interesting not to give money towards to see what would happen.
They should do that as like a stop motion what's it called? Lego movie where he's the voice actor and it's just his Lego. And
it would
is
be
a
good.
genuinely great idea.
Yeah, that would be great.
But so they were gonna make this movie, and then I think like weeks before production was supposed to start, it gets shut down.
Oh, okay.
And there's a whole documentary called "The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened," which I have not seen.
Well, I need to watch that because it's gonna answer all my questions.
Yeah, and you can look up the pictures of Nicolas Cage in the Superman suit with his nice long hair.
I'm looking it up now.
So
he could not look less like Superman.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the documentary, but there's a video on YouTube that's pretty long, and it's Nicolas Cage doing the costume fitting, and Tim Burton's there, and his normal costume designer that Tim Burton uses on all of his movies she's there, and they're talking about it, and they're like collaborating and giving each other ideas and stuff. It's pretty cool. Like,
yeah. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I'm a huge Tim Burton fan. Like Edward Scissorhands is my favorite movie. So
okay, cool. We love Burton as well.
Yeah.
Would I have wanted to see what this movie would be like? Yes. Do I think it would have been good? No, I don't.
Yeah. I agree. Exactly. Like in an alternate world, I mean, what I would do to see that movie. Oh my goodness. I will tell you this. I think I would honestly enjoy it more than I like Man of Steel. Because I think there would be an element of like, this is just so wild.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, the last superhero movie he made was Batman Returns, which is crazy.
Yeah. It'd be a nuts movie.
So, yeah, although, well, no, it would have been cool. It would have been cool.
At least would have looked fun.
It would have, you know what? I think it would have been a good, weird movie, but it would have been a really bad Superman.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm also thinking like late 90s, early 2000s special effects.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
That just doesn't hold up nowadays for most of the movies.
Totally.
Right. So 2006 Superman Returns, which if I'm remembering right, kind of has a it's like some people like it, some people don't, but not enough to keep it going as a franchise. So in 2008,
who played Superman?
I don't remember.
Wait, what is it called?
Superman Returns.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Brandon Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Routh, yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Oh yeah, and Kevin Spacey is Lex Luthor.
It's the guy in wait, really?
Yeah, he is.
He's in Scott Pilgrim.
Oh.
He's the vegan.
Oh, cool. I remember one of my old buddies, Dylan Huntley, he went to the premiere of that movie and he wore a Lex Luthor t-shirt that said like I love Lex Luthor, death to Superman or something like
really?
that. And went and saw the premiere of the movie.
And he was the only one there?
He might have been.
I'm just kidding.
So in 2008, Warner Brothers starts taking pitches from writers, directors, and comic book guys because they want to make a Superman movie. Mm-hmm. They're ready to get the ball rolling on this. They had one idea, which would have been an 8-hour total trilogy. So, 2.5 hours each-ish. And it would have chronicled his life. And they said similar to a Lord of the Rings structure. I don't know what that means in regards to...
Like they film it all at once?
Probably, yeah. And then if you'll remember from our Terminator Salvation episode, we talked about how director Mick G was going to direct Superman Flyby, but he is afraid of flying and didn't want to go to Australia, and so he dropped out of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So...
It's like a pretty big thing to pass up on.
So then, during The Dark Knight Rises, David S. Goyer tells Christopher Nolan, I have this idea for Superman and modernizing him.
Yeah.
And Nolan's like, I love this idea. So that's how the ball gets rolling. Then they start making the movie. It's pretty much like, well, Nolan okays it, then we're good to go. But then I have to talk about this because I think this is very strange. There was an ad campaign for this movie where they marketed it to like churches,
What?
and stuff like that. Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I did actually.
Never heard that.
Yeah, it's really weird because I mean, there's kind of getting into the theme of the movie, like that's kind of part of the theme is like he's some sort of messiah or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really weird for a superhero movie. Yeah, especially with aliens and stuff. I don't know. It's a weird campaign to have posters and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they had like this article says that they dedicated a website which invites clergymen to utilize Superman myth as a mechanism for educating and uplifting Christian audiences.
Educating them on just like the comic book.
So here's a quote. Superman's mythical origins are rooted in the timeless reality of a spiritual superhero who also lived a modest life until extraordinary times required a supernatural response. Jesus was sent by his Father to bear our burdens, to right our wrongs, to rise above our troubling circumstances. How might the story of Superman awaken our passion for the greatest hero who ever lived and died and rose again? Let's consider how Superman's humble origins, his high calling, and his transforming sacrifice point us towards Jesus, the original superhero. Which, might I add, I think calling Jesus a superhero is mighty offensive.
That's wild.
I mean, look, it's an ad campaign. They're trying to make money, okay?
Yeah.
It's nothing more than that. They're trying to play with different audiences and get them to come see the movie. Like, let's be realistic.
Yeah, no, totally. It's very wild. I don't think any of our church groups would have gone over Man of Steel at any point.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm sure that happens a lot though. I don't know. Like when Lord of the Rings came out, I bet that was marketed to churches.
Yeah. Probably.
But I mean that's a lot. That's just a lot. That's interesting.
I just thought it was very fascinating.
Yeah.
That's and there's a whole thing about like they talk about the Trinity and Jor-El and Kal-El and we didn't even have to go over that.
I do not know enough about Superman to even know about
I just think they're reaching, in my opinion. I think they're
definitely.
That's the same energy as, oh, look, China, we love China. Watch The Martian.
Right.
China saves Mark Watney. Come and watch our movie.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same energy. There's no like actual care toward the Chinese or Christians. It's just like, let's just see if we can get their butts in seats here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But hit us with those actors.
Okay, I'm only going to go over a few because there are a lot of people in this movie. Kevin Costner's in this movie that I forgot. That was very cool to see him in this movie. It's just like you were such a, I don't know, American dad. I don't know. It was great.
I mean, that's some great casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he probably got a good paycheck for not shooting that many days. Good for him. So Kevin Costner's in Dances with Wolves, The Postman, Robin Hood. I mean, Yellowstone. It's Kevin Costner. He's in so much stuff. And then Diane Lane plays Martha Kent, his wife. She's also in a ton of stuff. She's in Under the Tuscan Sun, Unfaithful, Inside Out, The Outsiders, and a ton of other stuff. She's in House of Cards, and I don't remember that. But yeah, she's just in a ton of stuff.
I don't remember that either.
Have we talked about Russell Crowe?
No, we have not talked about Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe is in this movie too. He's in, people, it's Russell Crowe. He's in Les Mis. He's in Gladiator. He's the beautiful mind. He has the world's most beautiful mind. He's in LA Confidential and so much more. And then Michael Shannon, who plays
Big Chicago himself.
Yes, plays General Zod. He's in The Shape of Water, Take Shelter, 99 Homes, Revolutionary Home. He is always
Revolutionary Road.
Oh, Road. Sorry.
Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Oh, he's so good in Knives Out.
He's always a treat when he's in a movie.
By the way, very inspired casting. That I think they really hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
So when they announced they were making a Superman movie and that they had announced that eventually that General Zod was going to be the villain, immediately the first person that came to my mind, and I remember this, was Michael Shannon.
Wow.
So I was just like, that's great casting right there.
That is so great.
I mean, he's really good in the movie.
He's always really good.
I mean, actually, for the most part, besides what we'll get into, I think the performances are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if not great.
In terms of like the story, sometimes the story doesn't like do service to the characters.
Yeah.
But everyone acting is doing a really good job.
Because Amy Adams is great, who you're about to go through, but I just don't like how Lois Lane is written in this movie. And I think she's she's not given the due that character should be given.
No, she's just put on an alien spaceship for conceivably no reason. Right. Other than to be there. And unless I'm missing something, and when we go through it, I can remember. But she is in American Hustle, Enchanted, Arrival, Doubt. She's in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nocturnal Animals, Sharp Objects. And then Henry Cavill plays Clark Kent.
And who is Clark Kent?
Superman. Obviously, he's in several of the DCEU movies. He's also in the latest Mission Impossible, where he got big for, and I felt like he looked a little small in this movie. So
well, and a listener, if you don't know about his mustache, you better tune in a few episodes, and we are going to talk a lot about his mustache.
Yep.
And this movie called Justice League.
Yeah, and he's in The Witcher, which came out last year, I think. I think he's really great. I really like him.
I enjoy him every time I see him.
Yeah. But I do feel like, did he get that big for Mission Impossible, or was he that big just progressively? Because I haven't seen other DC movies. Because he's like,
I think it's
now.
like, he gets big for Superman, and then when you're that big, you continue to get big. I think that's the situation.
I think he just gets cast now, and because he's Superman, he gets cast in these roles where he's got to be big. It's like, we need a big guy. So. Let's get Superman.
Yep.
Well, and there's something so smart about casting him in Mission Impossible, because he is supposed to be the symbol of ultimate good, and then to have him as the bad guy of that movie. Great.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
spoilers. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we always talk about how much we love those movies, and hopefully our audience, if they haven't, they've already taken our advice and watched them.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with, I think I get similar vibes with Chris Evans as the villain. And they did the same thing.
Yeah.
They definitely did. Yes.
So
he was so good in that.
His first post Captain America role is him being the ultimate jerk.
Yeah.
And that was just so smart.
He's Captain America, like totally altruistic, great guy, but I can never get him out of my head that he played the Flaming Torch. And the
Human Torch.
The Human Torch, sorry. He was just like such a bad boy in that movie.
Yeah.
I can never forget it.
That was so good. That wasn't even that bad of a movie. There were even two movies, honestly, in my opinion. I thought they were bad that they were good. Like, they weren't super bad, but they weren't super good, but they were just fun. But anyways.
Yeah.
Like, bad enough to watch.
Yep.
Not bad enough to turn off.
Exactly.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I like that. Bad enough to watch, not bad enough to turn off. No, that's pretty good.
I haven't watched them since I have been older. When I watched them as a kid, I was like, oh, these are pretty fun.
I loved them so much as a kid.
I just feel like we have so many superhero movies now that I think I'd watch them now and just be like, oh, zoinks, this is bad.
That's the same thing with Daredevil. When I saw Daredevil again as an adult, I was like, man, I really liked this movie as a kid. Why? But
although having what is his name? Whoever they cast as Kingpin, I'm forgetting his name, but the guy from Michael Clarke.
Yes,
that's a
Michael Clarke
good
Duncan.
casting. I like that a lot. But let's talk about Man of Steel. So the movie starts and we're in Krypton. They're going full Origin on this.
Totally. Origin. She's giving birth to him right now.
Yeah. Given birth. I like the design of Krypton. This is actually my favorite sequence of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of gets progressively worse as the movie goes on. But all of this stuff is cool. I like, having the bravada of casting Russell Crowe as his dad is really smart. So Krypton is about to be destroyed because they've been harvesting too much of its resources.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have much of a chance, but they've had the first natural birth on Krypton in centuries. And so they want to save their son, Kal-El, of course.
And why does Michael Shannon, what is his whole thing?
Well, he wants... I like his motivation a lot because his dad is motivated by we should keep Krypton from moving on. Or, I mean, we should keep the race continuing, and that'll happen through my son and the Codex.
But we went too far this time, is what it sounded like.
But we can still save our race.
Mm-hmm.
But Michael Shannon is a little more like, we are conquerors, and we need to continue to be conquerors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that
I like too I think it was like pretty much towards the end, when General Zod said that he has been genetically basically programmed to fight for the people of Krypton.
Yeah, because he was born in one of those birthing pods. Which
where
they have
like
there.
Codes every baby that has a destined purpose to basically contribute to society. I think that's all great. It's really cool world building. And like you said, I think it adds to his villain motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great opening sequence. Great, like she said, world building, motivations. I mean, the movie gets off on a really good foot, so that's good.
And so the city, or the planet, you know, I'm kind of skipping a little bit here because I want to get to Superman. You know what I mean? But you know, they send Kal-El away.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, General Zod has a coup. All this stuff is really cool. I mean, and even now I'm going, oh wait, am I gonna like love this time around? Because this is all awesome, and the fighting is cool. And so Kal-El gets sent away, and then the planet is being destroyed. Mm-hmm. But before that, General Zod and his crew, they get sentenced to.
Like 300 years.
300 cycles of reconditioning.
Cycles.
Which
sounds rough.
Doesn't really mean anything to us, but it sounds bad.
Well, someone said something about a black hole.
Yeah. So they get sent off.
I don't want it.
And who is the bad guy in the besides Lex Luthor? Who's the bad guy in the first Superman movie?
The original Lex Luthor.
Well, who's the Marlon Brando character?
Oh, that's his dad. He plays Russell Crowe's character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's mostly like Superman getting acclimated and learning how to save cats from trees, and then you got Lex Luthor. Yeah. I mean, that's mostly what the first movie is. It's an origin, but more like Earth origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
But who aren't there guys in, or maybe this is the second movie, aren't there guys in a glass thing?
Yeah, that's the same. That's General Zod and his two minions. It's the same character.
Okay.
That's the second movie.
Okay.
That time they went to the Phantom Zone and they were in a piece of glass or something.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Phantom Zone sounds a lot cooler than 300 cycles of sentencing.
It does. It sounds kind of cool.
So then we're interspersing between all these different timelines of Superman. I mean, that's the Nolan of it all. The man can't tell a story chronologically. So that's where I think Nolan had his work going.
So we have a Henry Cavill timeline, which is the main one, and then we have a 13-year-old version of him, and then I think we have an even younger, let's say like an 8-year-old version of him.
Yeah.
That there's flashbacks throughout.
Right. So let's just talk about each. We'll go chronological.
Okay.
I think that might be easier.
Starting with the youngest.
Yeah. So the youngest one. Oh man, I set myself up for a disaster here.
Well, the kid, I remember. Like the kid is in a classroom and he is like having a panic attack because he is seeing literally everything because he can. You know, it's his powers. I mean, he's like a god. You know, he can just see everything. I thought the effects were really cool.
Yeah.
That was really well done, especially when he was looking at his teacher and you can see like her nervous system and like her body working was cool. And then he runs into a closet and is freaking out, and his mom gets called there, and all of the kids are standing around the closet, which sounds so traumatic. And his mom comes and tells him, you know, you have to make the world small for you, and it'll be okay. That's the learning moment in this flashback.
And I like the whole idea of taking Superman and putting these really personal things that we can relate to, you know, getting bullied, being overwhelmed by stuff. I pretty much like all of the pre-Superman stuff in his timeline a lot. I mean, we're going to talk about the tornado in a little bit here, but I like all the kids stuff. I do and I don't understand why they don't want people to know about it. Like, there's that scene where he saves all the kids in the bus. Great scene. Love it. Really cool effects. That looked pretty practical to me.
Yeah.
Having the bus go over the bridge. You know, so this bus goes over a bridge. These kids are all going to drown. Then Clark pushes the bus up. And then he has this conversation with his dad. And I haven't read a lot of Superman comics. I've read very, very little. So it sounds like, Logan, you're the Superman expert.
No.
But
no.
No?
No.
Are any of the Superman experts here?
Nope.
I just know the guy. That's it.
It just feels the idea of them hiding it, I like.
Yeah.
But him saying, but Dad, because his dad says, you know, you scared all these people because you saved all these kids.
Yeah, he saves all the kids from drowning, and people are asking questions now.
And he says, what was I supposed to do? Let them die? And that's very Superman. I love that. Like, he can't let somebody die. But then his dad says, maybe. And that just rings
like, huh?
That rings really false to me now.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem like something Pa Kent would teach his son. Like, maybe you can kill people if you need to.
Well, it's like, I feel like he's kind of saying, like, for the greater good, you know, for everyone, I think it's just you're still not ready yet, or the world is not ready yet. So for the greater good, like, sometimes you can't do everything. Maybe that's the lesson he's trying to teach him, is he can't do everything, because he's going to realize that he can. But I'm kind of with you, where it's like, I don't think there's ever a situation where he would just let the kids drown in the bus, even if his dad was more direct with him about it.
I think that, and this is gonna probably trigger some people, but that's a very Zack Snyder thing. Like, oh, it's okay to get, you know, the bad people should die. Yeah, that's okay. That's, you know, even though it's superheroes that never kill. No. Like, that's a big arc in a lot of, like, I've watched a couple of the cartoon movies, like Death of Superman and other things, which are really good. Honestly, do Superman true justice, but
yeah.
Superman, like, that's a big thing. Whenever Superman decides to kill, that Batman's like, okay, you know, this guy's dangerous.
Oh yeah.
And maybe that's what he was trying to allude to. Like, this is going to be something that happens, which I could see that. But then he has Batman kill people later in a different movie. So it's like, whatever. Right. I think it's just Zack Snyder's, him being like, oh, it's okay to kill people, like easing us into that as best he can.
Right. It's like it's if they've been bad enough, there is no hope for them. Which also, I mean, if you want to go back to the Christian ad campaign, that's not very Christian. There's always hope, guys.
Wow. Well,
but
that's interesting.
The backlash would happen after they get paid. That's
yeah.
But I think that's my biggest problem with the movie, rewatching it, because it feels that my guy's Spider-Man. So I read Spider-Man comics all the time. I love Spider-Man. And Spider-Man never kills anybody. And from what I've gathered with Superman, reading some of his comics and stuff like that, like, Superman doesn't kill people. He and no matter what the situation, no matter how impossible it is, I'll go back to Spider-Man here, he always figures out a way to not kill people. And when it happens, it's always an accident, and he carries that guilt around. And even, you know, it'll be like, man, it'd be so much better if you just murdered Doc Ock. But he's like, but there's always a chance that Doc Ock will become a good guy, so I can't take that chance away from him. And so the end of this movie, wow, we're jumping way ahead here, but at the end of this movie, when he kills General Zod, it's like, I guess that's quote unquote cool, but it really sucks that this Superman can deal out judgment like that.
Yeah.
I really don't like that about, and you know, having watched all the other movies, I just feel like Henry Cavill is an amazing Superman. Like his acting, his physicality, he's great. But it sucks that we have a Superman who's not like truly good. And the whole basis of Superman is he always does the right thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like in all the movies, he has consistently done the wrong things.
But I mean, is that Zack Snyder's point? I mean, he did say he wanted to make a more modern Superman. I mean,
well,
is that how he sees the world? Is, you know, there's not really nobody that's really all good. You know, is that his viewpoint?
I mean, I think you're right. I think it is the viewpoint of it. But man, I just
in a Superman movie that he's doing that. It's like of all places, Zack Snyder, you have to take Batman and Superman, two of the people who like never kill and will go and hunt down people and put them in jail because they killed somebody. But no, these people kill now. Oh, yeah, that gets to me. I'm with you because because it could have made future movies so good. Like say later in like 3 movies down, Superman kills the Joker because like the Killing Joke, that whole arc is amazing. Because then it turns Batman against Superman, and then people have to decide what's right, and everything gets gray and fuzzy because the dude lost his wife that had his child to a crazy man who kills millions of people all the time. Like, of course, it was an easy choice for him, but to Batman, it wasn't. And so there's this clashing of heads, and that makes a great movie. And then we get Batman v Superman.
Right. Well, and I think to skip ahead in the series, what bums me out is like, so Superman isn't truly good in this movie. Okay. But maybe he'll learn in the next movie or something. But then in the next movie, it's like he's pretty apathetic to the troubles of Earth, which also doesn't feel very Superman.
Especially in this movie. By the end, you know, because this movie is like, it really became like, we have to trust each other.
Yeah.
And I think they really did a really good job of him, like when he was basically arrested talking to Lois Lane, and he has handcuffs on because it makes them feel more comfortable. And that's when he's kind of like, we both need to trust each other.
Yeah.
If this is going to work. Otherwise, I could just kill you all. Not that he's threatening that. But like, if that makes sense.
Right. So you have that. Then in the next movie, he's kind of like apathetic to humanity. And then he dies. And then they bring him back in Justice League. And what is he? He's evil Superman for like a quarter of that movie. And it's like, what? Why can't this Superman be a good guy?
Yeah.
Yep. But I'm starting to realize, like, I need to compartmentalize the Zack Snyder view of the universe as you would when a new comic book writer does a run on a character, and you just go, well, I don't like this guy's run on the character, but some people do, and that's good for them, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's not, like, this is not Superman to me. This is not Batman to me.
Yeah.
But it is to some people, I guess. I just don't care to, like once we get through this series, I'm probably never rewatching the Zack Snyder stuff again.
Do you think this means like Zack Snyder isn't maybe as interested in exploring who Superman is? Like if he is someone who will not kill someone, like that part is not as important to him as other parts that he does in the movie?
I think, and this is, I mean, this could be argued right here, right now, but I think he's more interested in saying, here's my version of these characters, let me like show you a take I had. It's like no, this is my ownership of them, which writers of comics do all the time.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Movies and comics is different because
definitely, you
know, there's a lot more money that goes towards movies, and it's like we got to stick with this, you know, and that's why I think our opinions will change on this movie, for example, because when you first see it, it's the first of a series of movies, and it's like, well, I don't like that he killed him, but let's see where he takes this. You know, maybe he's got some, you know, maybe he's got something up his sleeve, or, you know, but then it's like things start to unfold, and it's like, I just don't like where this is going, and I just don't like your take, and now we have to wait another 10 years for a
Seriously.
Superman movie I like. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's like the ultimate bummer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is a waste of part of my life.
It seems like we have to wait, 6 months for a Batman movie, but 20 years for a new Superman movie. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but I mean, yeah, a good thought, Logan. We should watch the animated series.
Yeah, I've never seen them.
I know some of those Batman movies at least are just amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the Superman stuff though. That's good to know.
The first one in the series that like the modern cartoons and stuff that gets into the Young Justice and the actual television series of Justice League starts off with Flashpoint Paradox. If you want to get started, that's
cool.
That's
which is a great movie, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like their animated universe I like more from what I've seen.
They have some really cool ideas. Like it's the sequel, right, to Flashpoint Paradox, where Batman has these secret files that he stored away on how he knows each person's weakness and how to kill them if necessary. And that starts a huge war. It's pretty interesting. They delve into some really cool stuff.
Cool.
Good recommend.
Yes. Yeah. Let's get back to this one.
Okay, so we have let's talk about the tornado scene. So we've kind of talked about his childhood and stuff. This is not a bad scene. I know it feels like I'm harping on this movie really really badly. I don't really love it, but I wouldn't say that I dislike the movie. I'm very in the middle about it. But in this scene, it's just.
Does it just not make sense to you that Kevin Costner went and not?
It's just I know what they're doing on a story level. They're trying to get rid of the father, provide him with that inspiration, and know that the world is not ready. But it just really is like, man, if I think about this for 1 minute, it doesn't make sense that this happened, that his dad died, and also on a story level, I don't know that his dad needed to be killed for him to be inspired to be Superman.
Yeah, I'm with you, I think, on that. I do get like the basic of like if his dad dies, like does give him a lot of motivation. But I mean, he finds out before Henry Cavill is in the picture that his real dad is probably dead.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you guys think about that?
It's tough because like
that's the going rate for this episode. It's tough because
it's I like the way that the original Superman did it, but then it's like, well, they can't just do that again, you know?
Yeah.
They have to kill him off. You just wish they had thought of a better way to do it that made more sense. I think it's in a vacuum. That's kind of how it is, and the logic isn't there, so you have to suspend even more disbelief.
Yeah.
Right.
If I wanted to be logical, I'd be like, well, ever since Superman saved those kids, why isn't CPS showing up and being like, what are you feeding this kid, or why is
right.
So you kind of have to really suspend disbelief sometimes, but there is a point, there's like a line where it's like completely the opposite of logic, so you have to like try and figure out, this makes sense in any universe. It's tough, because then you also have to compare it to the past movies.
Yeah.
Didn't like the scene either.
Yeah.
What about you, Logan?
Yeah. It's dot. I actually had, like, while y'all were talking about it, I have this brilliant idea for this scene, right?
Here we go.
I'm envisioning it in my head that it's actually not a tornado, but it's actually General Zod that comes and does something that kills his father in the process. He's not an actual, like, he's not the target. He's just a byproduct. And so he realizes, you know what? My dad said it wasn't time. Now it's time. And then he goes and he gets his butt handed to him. And then he ends up finding his dad in the scout ship, his real dad. And he's like, hey, you're Superman. You got this. He gives him a pep talk.
I like that so much more.
That's way better.
Like, just gives him this massive pep talk. And then he goes and takes care of business as real Superman. gets the clothes.
Yeah.
He's not just some dude in some pants. He's like actual Superman then. And everybody's like, oh, he's back. He saved everybody. And it's not just, oh, let's go into a spaceship with Lois Lane and they are in love for some reason.
Yeah, that is so much better than just like a random tornado randomly killing his dad when he could have prevented it. Because if it was, let's say General Zod was the reason his dad died, that is like there's so much more weight to it, because that could, like you said, could be a defining moment of when Superman's like, oh, maybe I can prevent that, or could have.
Yeah.
Or, he like, it's a learning moment for himself rather than watching him dive by a tornado and knowing he could have done something to stop it.
Yeah. Man, that's a good pitch. And I think it also shaves off about a half hour of this movie.
Logan, you're hired, right?
Warner Brothers, are you listening?
Zack Snyder, hit me up.
Yeah.
Well, and I do want to say, because I think to our listeners, it's going to sound like I'm just bashing Snyder a lot. I think he's just not my guy, but I've been watching a lot of interviews and stuff, and I do think his heart behind filmmaking is really pure, and I think he seems like a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And he really loves movies. He really loves comic books. I think I just see it differently than him.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's plenty of filmmakers that are great that I don't connect with the way other people do.
You can't be mad at him, you know what I mean? Because he's
Right.
so passionate. So, and it's the same reason I can't really be mad at, like, and Logan will disagree with me, but I can't be mad at Rian Johnson's take on Last Jedi, because at the end of the day, they're passionate, and you'd rather have someone that loves making movies and is passionate about it than someone who's there to they're technically proficient and they're there to cash a check and to please the studio heads and to please the fans,
Right.
I
love that.
I will only defend myself a little bit here. Just really quick. I'm not actually mad at Rian Johnson. Just the studio should have given him another year. And I think he would have, because he made Knives Out, which we talked about a little bit earlier, but so he has the ability. But with Zack Snyder, I think one of the big things for him is he's not really great about saying, look, this is something new. He in a lot of things, he kind of takes something that a lot of people already love and does it his own way, but people aren't really prepared for it. Now we can kind of think, we're like, oh, it's a Zack Snyder movie. It's not going to be what we expect, but we might still enjoy it. Let's go see it.
Right.
If he were to twist that as his narrative of like, this isn't what you don't expect what you have before, I'm going to change it, then I think he'd go into it a little bit better and enjoy it a little bit better.
Well, honestly, as much as I probably won't watch it, like if after HBO Max gave him the funding to finish the Snyder Cut Justice League, which I didn't like, but although it's 100% better than the theatrical version, and that's saying something, the Justice League theatrical version is about as bad as a movie can get, but the Snyder Cut is crazy superior. I still don't like it. But if Warner Brothers was like, hey, we're going to give him a few $1 million and he'll have his DC movies on HBO Max and we'll just continue making other movies, like it doesn't, because he sets up like 3 movies at the end of that. It's like, I kind of like that idea. That's kind of fun. I probably won't watch any more of them unless I need to for the podcast. But that's cool. Whatever. It's like a Spider-Verse situation. Let's make a movie about the Gwen Spider. Maybe you don't want to see it. Well, I'd see anything they put out, but I kind of dig that. But
I think
I digress.
Pretty interesting.
No, that sounds extremely DC. To have alternate universes going at the same time, because they kind of always have done that. So, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. Well, I can't say everything because we have future episodes in this very series, and I have some takes on some stuff. But so, okay, we've gone through him as a kid. Let's talk about Lois Lane.
So she's introduced Are they in Antarctica? They're somewhere like that.
Yeah, and they find like an old scout ship from. I mean, they don't know this, but from Krypton from like centuries ago, and they're trying to figure out what it is.
I just have to say, that when she's there, and obviously people don't like her because she's a nosy journalist, and they put her in like the storeroom to sleep, and they're like, yeah, if you're gonna better not go outside in the middle of the night, it's below 40 something degrees, and then she's just out there in a beanie, an open jacket.
What did Brayden say though? Suspend your disbelief and
it's hard to when that
go
happens.
even further than that.
Yeah.
It's hard to when that happens.
Continue to suspend yourself.
Well, I think the tough part is, because I don't mind if a movie is crazy or whatnot. I mean, we talked about Batman Returns. That movie's insane. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a lot of fun, and I follow that movie. But this movie is trying so hard to make it grounded and realistic. So when it breaks its own logic like that, it's really jarring.
That's just basic human logic.
Yeah. But, if this was a scene in Batman Returns, I'd be like, yeah, it doesn't matter that it's 40 below. Who cares?
Yeah.
If this was in the Schumacher Batman, sure. They're in an ice cave. I don't need an explanation for that. That's cool.
Yeah, but maybe you
as
do
long as
notice
it's Jim Carrey. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's like whatever. But this movie's trying so hard. It's it's grabbing you and it's saying take this seriously. And then when
like,
she
wait a second,
walks out and she's like not cold, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's unnecessary detail that if they didn't say anything, they were just like, don't go outside because it's past curfew. It's past curfew. Just say that. Come on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, but
it is what it is.
Those are all great points, and I didn't like the way they wrote Lois Lane 2. There was just no logic to it. Like she was just kind of there. They just kind of threw her in there. They're like, we need more Lois Lane. Amy Adams is getting paid this much. Let's work her. And Amy Adams is a very talented actress. I just do not like her as Lois Lane.
Yeah, agreed.
I do not want to sound ageist here. I have nothing wrong with older women and younger guys, but there is an 8-year gap between her and Henry Cavill, and she's. I just felt like she didn't fit Lois Lane, especially if they're gonna do like a franchise with. Whoops, I hit my mic. If they do a franchise with her.
Yeah.
I felt like they could have gotten someone else, if that makes sense. And she's very talented.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of this particular casting.
I almost wish. It's just, I get it. Lois Lane is the love interest for Superman, so you have to put her in the movie. Mm-hmm. But she did nothing in the movie. And it's like, I think would have been more effective if you don't put her in the movie, which shaves off screen time. And
we're just trying to get the runtime down on this bad boy.
And that they focus more on the relationship with his mom and his dad, not just his dad, but like them together. Because I think Diane Lane is really good in this movie. Yeah. And she, I think, has some like better character development moments for him than Lois Lane has for him. So it's almost like that's my take. I don't need romance in every superhero movie.
Right.
I just need like the action and a pretty good story.
Well, okay, I'm going to try and match your pitch, Logan. So we do what you did, but here's what we also do. We cut Lois Lane from the movie completely. And then Batman vs. Superman starts with Lois Lane, and she's doing an investigative report on which they kind of get into this in the movie, but from a journalist standpoint, I think it'd be more interesting, like whether we should be scared or not of these people who destroyed our city.
Oh, that's interesting.
And in Batman v Superman, she's trying to figure that whole thing out and figure out what is good and what's bad. I mean, we have a city where like probably hundreds of thousands of people got murdered because they were punching each other through buildings. That'd be my fix.
I like it.
And they do kind of get into it because you haven't seen the movie, but Batman has problems with the city being destroyed, which I think is cool. But maybe a journalistic perspective could have been interesting.
Yeah, and then she wouldn't be biased towards Superman. She'd be like trying to figure out who he is, and we'd have more time of her figuring it out instead of finding it out 5 minutes into thinking about it. No matter how good of a reporter you are, there's no way you're gonna find the secret identity of some dude that an alien is asking for.
Yeah.
It's like that was a long shot.
Yeah, and I think it almost feels like, they're what is the thing called, the alien spaceship? He saves her life, and then she's on this journey to find her mystery man, and it just seems like I had the craziest time of my life meeting this stranger, and I have to track him down. That's kind of like that feels like what her motivation is.
Well,
a little bit.
Now, and this is a joke, but what they should have done to reference the series we just covered is Lois Lane should have then left, wrote a book about her experience with the man. They wait 9 years,
Yes,
and then they meet up again, and it's before sunset.
Wow.
It's before sunset - Superman.
Okay.
and her book becomes a bestseller, and they make a movie out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's kind of skip ahead, and General Zod is freed, and he is trying to find Kal-El, Mr. Superman himself. And actually, we shouldn't skip over him getting his cape. That's pretty cool.
He gets his cape.
He gets his cape.
End of story.
And I will say, it's kind of a problem with origin movies. We're 49 minutes into the movie, and this is the first time we see him as Superman.
Yeah.
I like that you're trying to take it seriously, and Batman Begins does the same thing pretty much, even though I love that movie. But it's like, come on, I want to see the superhero. He's Superman. And so he finally gets his suit. He flies around. I like that he breaks the sound barrier. The shot of his hands when the rocks are shaking.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's like, this is cool.
Yeah.
But now, General Zod, he takes over the power grid of the Earth, and he requests that Earth give this mystery person who's a kryptonite to him so that he can get the codex, basically. Did I sum that up correctly?
Yeah.
I like the Zod videotape. That's really cool.
I liked it too, yeah.
There's a scene where Superman goes to a priest and talks about faith, which, watching it after knowing that they were advertising this to churches, it rang a little differently. And then Superman says, okay, I'll give myself up. He's got his sweet suit on. He goes into like an interrogation room. Lois Lane says, that S should stand for super, and then it gets cut off because,
we get it.
We can't use comic book terms in movies that are serious for some reason.
Uh-huh.
We could never call him Superman. And then they're up on Zod's spaceship.
Yes.
I mean, in this, we basically find out Zod is going to kill all of Earth no matter what, and he needs the codex.
So when he gets on the spaceship, they take him back to Kansas because I think before that, didn't they go to his like?
They needed his pod. Yeah, they needed his pod because they thought the codex was on the pod.
Yeah.
Because they don't know that it was put into Kal-El.
Yes. That's
right.
what it is. Yeah. But yeah, that's the moment when he does find out that in order for General Zod to like do his job, he has to basically annihilate the human race.
Cool. Into it.
I liked.
I mean, not the idea of annihilating Earth, but
I love that.
I thought the imagery was cool during that.
Oh, like that he's falling into the skulls and stuff?
I thought all of that imagery was pretty cool.
Mm.
And then we fight.
And in case you weren't aware, there's some interesting brands that help make this movie possible. U-Haul, Sears, IHOP, and 7-Eleven. Give it up for Man of Steel. They should have said on the marquee, it should have said Man of Steel brought to you by.
Yeah.
And then it has all those.
Seriously.
And then on Superman's suit, he has some logos.
Yeah.
Stitched in.
Taco Bell.
Yeah. You just see him eating some Taco Bell in the middle of the movie.
So once the fighting starts in this movie, I sort of lose interest in the movie. And
Really?
I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is we've just seen this a lot by 2021. But I understand, and then here's the second part. I understand the thinking behind how they fight, because they want to show how strong these characters really are. But I think, punching someone and they fly like several miles, it's just a little exhausting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't you kind of consider that a trope?
Yeah.
At this point?
Definitely, yeah.
At this point, definitely, yeah. And that's the whole thing. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. But especially now that we have so many movies like that, it's like, ugh. Especially when we have fight scenes like Iron Man versus, oh my gosh, I can't think.
Thanos.
Yeah. Whenever they're on Titan and they're fighting there, you see, there's no punches pulled, and the visuals are amazing. Like, that's one of the movies where the visuals of the fighting is like, oh, you're like, oh, what's gonna happen next? What move is he gonna use next to try to get the edge?
Yeah.
And then there's this. I gotta agree, the action. For me too, I really am into physics and aerodynamics. Just as a hobby, just watching videos on it and stuff, seeing them go so fast and then stop, like just their own bodies, that would be painful.
Yeah.
so it just
like rip them apart.
Exactly. Like their bones, just like their skin comes off their body, and it all. But yeah,
you see the Taco Bell spilling out.
Oh, but no, I think if they just toned it down by half, it would have been fine. Yeah.
And I like that you brought up. It made me think of the fight in Infinity War, where the Guardians, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange are all working together to pull off the glove off of Thanos. And I really like that fight because it's huge, but it's very specific what they're trying to do, and so you're interested in how are they going to do it. Whereas this is like punch, fly, punch, fly, and there's no strategic, tactical interest in it. You're just like, okay, you got thrown through another wall. I mean, I just have no idea how it will even end.
Yeah.
And there are some Marvel movies that definitely do it. I'm not saying that they're like hands clean from this. But yeah, that's interesting. I had never thought of that comparison.
And this guy is supposed to be a general of generals. This is General Zod. He was built specifically to be the best general for his people. So I love the actor. He does just a perfect Zod. He carries Zod. He carries this end of the movie because of Zod. But how Zod was written, it was very poor because he was so flashy. And maybe this is just another Snyder thing, but in like the other movie, Zod was like, I don't need to show off how powerful I am. I know how powerful I am. I don't need to prove it to anybody else.
Yeah.
I am just better than everybody else. And he had this arrogance that was like, you want Superman to go punch him in the face, but he's be prepared for it. And so it just makes the fight, the build up to the fight thrilling. Yeah. And this just jumps right into it. And it's, like you said, a slugfest. It's boring. It's as if you take two toddlers and give them bats, baseball bats, and have them slap each other.
Yeah. Well, and
those are my favorite fights. I bet money on those.
Another funny thing is after this sequence, it's like they fight for a while and Superman kind of loses, and then we're gearing up for the final fight, And during that, Superman says, I have this idea. I need the army's help, though. And that was another moment that just rang false to me of like, why would Superman need the army's help? Like, he's got this. He's Superman. He doesn't need the U.S. military. And it was just like, well, this movie's probably like funded partially by the military. I guess they need to make sure they are strong, you know.
Yeah.
I think
That's how it felt to me.
I think in terms of writing the story, it was just about that whole trust thing that they were really trying to hammer in, like that.
Well, that's true.
That storyline. So I think that can simply be answered by that. I'm not saying it's the best, because I'm with you. It's like he can just get the job done, right?
Yeah. So then there's I mean, I don't even know if it's worth describing the last battle.
No, but I have a pitch for it.
Okay, let's hear it. I love it.
Not
You're
worth
fixing
it.
this
Let's
movie.
do this.
Honestly, if like say the generals, like the U.S. military was like, we're not going to help you. You know, you're nuts. You're an alien. We don't like you. We're racist. We're xenophobic. Whatever excuse they have to come up with, and the colonel or whatever is like, I don't care. I'm going to help you anyways because I believe in Superman. Like says something super comic book, super silly.
Yeah.
But then you're like, yeah, let's do this. And they go in and it's against orders from the military and they're trying to evacuate people and stuff. I don't know really how else to go past that. Like the whole end battle, you're right, needs to be trashed and redone. But just that part of it, the lead up to, you kind of feel more invested because like these people are going to put their lives on stake because it's not just Superman, but he's getting the support of other people too. And so then that would make Batman v Superman so much stronger because there's people on both sides and it feels believable.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas and then so the destruction is partly America's fault, partly, the military's fault. And so Superman can't get the whole blame, even if people want to put it on him. That would build up for more future movies. And this one would feel more believable, at least for me.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
They should have done it.
Here's $1 million bucks. Here's $1 million bucks, Logan.
Dude, I wish.
And I do think again, we can't stress enough that a lot of these opinions are because we've seen where they've taken this universe, and also we've seen so many superhero movies by now. So I just think, like, especially this fight. I mean, I think I thought it was too long even then, but I think I thought that, hey, this is some cool visuals, and now it's just really boring. Mm-hmm. But here is a shocking thing. Unless I'm incorrect, there was not one sequence of slow motion in this movie, which maybe is the only Zack Snyder movie without slow motion.
Yeah. Okay.
Because after just finishing up Justice League, his 4-hour cut, I mean, that movie would be an hour shorter if there was no slow motion in it.
Yeah.
So I was shocked that there was none in this movie.
That's true. I didn't really think about that.
I mean, granted, before the movie started, I was like, I'm gonna keep like a tally in my head. But
Wow.
So they fight for a while. He murders Zod. I just wish he could have figured out another way. It's not very heroic to murder him.
Yeah.
I just really don't like that.
Yeah.
Maybe grab his head and just fly up.
Yeah.
Just fly upwards. Take him into space.
They kind of do. What's that?
I said he did have him on the ropes. So I mean, there's definitely something he could have done.
Well, and they do that thing in screenwriting where they're telling you, they're not really showing you, where it's like, this is the only way, I'm going to kill these people no matter what you do. And it's like, well, show me that this is the only option, because it doesn't look like the only option to me.
Yeah.
So that part just feels lazy, and it feels like they wanted to just have something for people to talk about after the movie.
Although I remember the first time seeing it, I'm just like, was Superman like, oops, sorry, I didn't realize I was that strong. I snapped your neck, That's what I was thinking.
I would love if he said that afterward.
Oh, darn.
Oh, golly darsh.
That's my bad. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh man, all these people watching. It's like, I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, whoa, dang, Superman. That's not my Superman. But yeah, it was interesting.
Well, I remember when I saw it in theaters, I viewed movies a lot differently, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, this series is willing to do something like that.
Yeah.
But-
and I think that works for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I just think now I'm like, oh, that's really lame. I think. Like, I don't know. It's just edgy to be edgy. It doesn't feel like it really adds to the character or the movie or the story.
Yeah.
I think there could have been a much more satisfying ending where he, whether Zod wants redemption or not, he attempts to give him redemption. You know?
Yeah.
But that's not the movie we have.
No.
And that's not the movie we're here to discuss.
And is it right after this scene that he goes and kisses Lois Lane?
He kisses her and she says, you know, it's all downhill after the first kiss. An expression I've never heard before.
And then he says something like, well, you're not kissing a human, so I don't think that
Yeah.
I don't think that counts.
Wow. That's
Which
one way
is just
to flirt.
wild. You know, he just broke the neck of someone and then he's making out.
I cannot buy that. You just murdered somebody and then you're going to go kiss this girl that you don't know, but we're supposed to think that you're in love with each other.
And then those one-liners, can you imagine them in a real-life situation?
If I was him, I would just be sobbing.
Just be like, I'm not human, you know. You like that?
Well, yeah, and now it's like, I mean, he should be mourning the fact that he is now to his knowledge, the only Kryptonian in existence.
Mm-hmm.
And he has murdered the last of his people. And he's like, you know, I'm not human.
Yeah. I'm the last of my people because I'm a murderer.
But what is cool, I really like the sequence where he gets the job at the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
And she looks up at him like, oh, I know who you are. And he's like, oh, hi, Miss Lane. I think that's so charming. And I'm like,
felt very
oh,
comic
cool.
booky.
Yeah.
She's like, who is that? What?
Yeah.
It looks familiar, but I don't remember the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've said my piece about the movie.
Yeah.
What about you, Jordan?
I got nothing left.
What about you two? Did we miss anything? What are your final thoughts on Man of Steel? Oh, I just burped. Whoops.
That's great for podcasts.
Yeah.
Logan, you go first.
Okay, I was prepared for you to go first. Oh man, Brayden, how about you go first? Because I can't think unless you go first.
Man, I might be all out of juice. I mean, yeah, I think I think I left it all out here on the table. You know, what I thought just tweak some things, change some of the story, change Superman's personality a little bit. I will say this. I think that Henry Cavill has improved as an actor since this movie. I don't know if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just in like Man of Steel as his role as Superman, which I think he has improved as, but also as just an actor. Like, I don't know I think one of his most underrated performances is in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. I don't know if you guys saw that movie.
Haven't seen it.
That's a fun movie. And he was great in that movie. He has like the accent and anything. It's everything. So he's acting, you know.
Yeah.
So I just think it's cool to see him grow and get more roles and just become a star. It's just cool to see that.
Yeah.
No, I think we got it all. The one last thing I will say about this movie, though, is I think it would have been better. I think all of the arguments we have, everything we have to say about it would have been moot. Would have been fine. Nobody would have argued it if the title was Not Your Grandfather's Man of Steel.
Absolutely. I love that.
And then it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a simple fix.
We really did it. But before we sign off, Jordan, we forgot, and we got to really quickly do this, and then we'll let you guys go. We did not rank what we think of the Before trilogy in our last episode.
Okay, you go first.
I'll go first. And I know it'll change over time because the movies are just the best and they're so beautiful. And as you grow older, they just change their meanings. But I am going to go with number 3, Before Sunrise, number 2, Before Sunset, and I'm going to go number 1, Before Midnight.
Okay, mine is going to be the last one, Before Midnight. 2 before sunset, 1 before sunrise.
Wow. Exact opposite.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you both for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Listeners, go listen to Absolutely Gobsmacked. Oh, why don't you guys plug it? You're here.
Yeah, go listen to Absolutely Gobsmacked. Yeah. It's I mean, in my humble opinion, it's fine. It's a decent podcast.
Oh, come on.
We go over, so what we do is we do behind the scenes movie history. So most of the movies we cover are classics, cult classics, you know. We do a lot of 80s, 90s stuff. We definitely eventually want to venture into 40s, 50s, 60s because there's a lot of history there. First episode was Wizard of Oz, so that was an older one, but we just have a lot of fun going over, you know, the drama and stuff that happens behind the scenes and who, you know, what could have been, the different actors that tried out for different roles, you know, in a different universe, what would that be like? Stuff like that.
We do kind of similar to what you guys do too on times when we're like, you know what, let's put one out about something that we really enjoy, where we'll talk about movies that we just enjoy and just like to talk about it. So
yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Oh, dang it. We said it at the same time.
Well, thanks for being on. Go listen to Absolutely Gobsmacked.
Yes.
And if you can spare it, folks, go to patreon.com/Micah McCaw and listen to our episode on
The Kid Who Would Be King, with a couple of Jordan and Micah's friends from high school on guesting duty. It's a super fun episode.
And next week, it's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I think I got the title right.
We'll find out.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.